Mad at your boss because you went to hear the Dalai Lama talk and he said, you know, your enemy is your friend, and when your boss is screaming at you, it's a precious opportunity, and you know, and just to try to be patient in a bad situation is one thing. To understand the emptiness of that situation and therefore be patient is a totally different thing, and the good karma that's created is infinitely different. So what's the difference? You know, I mean, it used to really bother me. I used to really wonder, you know, okay, I'm doing my good karmas the wrong way. It's hard enough for me to do a good karma. Now these lamas are telling me I'm not doing it the right way, you know. You know, and I have to be keeping my mind on something else while I'm doing it, or else it's not very powerful. In fact, it's even a cause for more samsara. You know, a good deed done without an understanding of emptiness, it creates a pleasant result in the future, which is more samsara. You know, it's like getting a BMW but still being in samsara. You know, and so it messes up my life. It's hard enough for me to be good. Now they're telling me if I'm not good the right way, it doesn't matter anyway. You have to be aware of the emptiness of the situation. You have to see the emptiness of what's going on. So what is the emptiness? Okay, and we'll just do it very quickly, and then we'll keep doing it all week long until it becomes a habit. Okay, the emptiness of the situation is this. We talked about, if you were there Friday night, we talked about it. This is a real example. This happened to me Tuesday or so. I sit in a certain chair. There's a guy on one side of me who like could care. They don't know me very well, and they don't care whether I'm getting yelled at or not, frankly. There's maybe other people in the room who do know me well and don't like me very much. And if I got yelled at, then they would be kind of happy. That would be sort of nice. So the boss comes in, and he starts yelling at me for going to California when I haven't finished my work, you know. And for me, that's a very unpleasant experience. That experience is unpleasant. By definition, what's the definition of bad karma? What's the definition of bad karma? Yeah, it's just any action which as a karmic result brings you suffering. Okay, that's the definition of bad karma. It's very interesting. Bad karma is defined as namingi devu yidumi owa debe chawa. Some kind of action which sometime in the future will produce an unpleasant result for you. Okay? So at that moment I'm experiencing the result of a bad karma. If I don't like what he's saying, if it hurts me, then by definition the cause of it was a bad karma. Okay? Now the guy next to me, there's this guy sitting on my right. He's hearing the same words come out of my boss's mouth. He's hearing exactly the same words come out of my boss's mouth. He's busy. He doesn't care about me either way. And for him it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So for him it's neutral. It's a neutral event. The same event for him is something he could care less about, you know. Okay, some guy's getting yelled at. He's got other work to do. He's not even paying much attention. So for him it's a neutral event. Then the guy on my other side who doesn't like me, these same angry words are producing what? Pleasure. So for him, these same angry words are a result of what? Good karma. It's very interesting. Really, really. For him, it's a result of a good karma. If he's enjoying it. That's a big if. You know, if he's something nice to him, if he thinks this is something good, if it strikes him as something extremely pleasant, that Roach is finally getting it, you know, that's actually a good karma for him. It's a result of a good karma. Must be. Definition. There's nothing good that ever happens in your life that does not result from your own good karma. Cannot happen. And there's nothing bad that's not a result of your bad karma. Can't be. So we have a strange situation here. We have one object called the boss, and he's pleasant, unpleasant, and neither at the same time. Okay? One thing is pleasant, unpleasant, and neither at the same time. In fact, he's probably both, too. You've got all four impossible situations. He's pleasant, he's unpleasant, he's pleasant and unpleasant, and he's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Okay? All at the same time. Is that possible? I mean, we have this debate. The first debate that kids have in the monastery is called Kado Karma. It's called white color, red color. And you have this huge debate about whether one thing can be all white and all red at the same time. You know, and there's huge, you know, these kids come in and, hey, you know, and it's a big, that's their, you know, they're really excited, and you hear them doing it all day long, you know. Could this pole be all red? No, why? It's all white, you know. And it can't be white and red at the same time. It can't be all white and all red at the same time. Okay. So how can the boss have two contradictory characteristics? You know, how can the boss be pleasant, unpleasant, both unpleasant and pleasant, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant, all at the same time? How can one object be that? It's impossible. Huh? Then he'd be nothing, right? I don't know. But how can he seriously have two totally opposite characteristics at the same time? How can he do both? Yeah, it's coming from the observer, okay? And it sounds stupid. I mean, normally the things that are true are so simple that they sound stupid, okay? That is the proof of emptiness. That's the proof of emptiness, okay? That's the proof that being pleasant or unpleasant is not a characteristic of him. Okay? It does not belong to him. That quality is not his. Being pleasant or unpleasant is not a quality of his. It doesn't belong to him. It's coming from someplace else. Okay? What about the data? Is the data there? I mean, is there a red face? Is there some loud noises coming out of that round thing? You know? Yeah, the data is there. Okay, there is sense data there. There's loud noises coming out of the red round thing, and there's sweat breaking out on the red face. You know, there really is. There is data there, but three different beings in the room are interpreting the data in three different ways. They're having three totally different experiences of the same data. But right now, let's stick to one level. You know, let's say there is really out there some data. Red face, loud noise, round mouth, open very wide, and and that three different people are interpreting that data in three different ways. That is the emptiness of the boss's face. It's neither pleasant or unpleasant, both or neither, by itself. By itself, it's none of the above. Okay, with the participation of the three minds that are watching him. It becomes something. Okay, it becomes some kind of. It becomes either pleasant, unpleasant, or neither. Okay, depending on the person who's observing. Now, the $64,000 question, and really we could end the class after that. But you're not so lucky. Why do three different people see him three different ways? You know, he is empty. I prefer the word blank. I think blank is a much better word. You know, Tongba could be called blank. I kind of prefer the word blank. He is a blank screen. That's what emptiness means, okay? He is blank. He's not pleasant or unpleasant or neither from his side. He's a blank screen. And three different minds are projecting three different movies on that blank screen. Why? Karma. Okay? One mind was mean to somebody in the past, and on this blank screen is forced to see something which is unpleasant, is forced by its past karma. By the way, when I say forced, it's very, very important. That's the rub with projections. They ain't voluntary. We wish. You know, you can't go look at this boss who's yelling at you and it hurts and say, oh, this is just my projection. I think I'll have the opposite projection. You know, since everything's just a projection, why don't we project a nice boss this morning? You know, you can't do it. Go try. I always tell people, go to the dentist. Let him drill your teeth, you know. Try to project pleasant, you know. You know, when people give me that wrong view, and they say everything's empty, and if you had the right willpower, everything would be jolly. I say, let me drill your teeth, you know. Just give me 5 minutes with a drill and your molars, you know, and you project and I'll drill, you know, and you know, and we'll see how it goes, you know. It's not willpower, okay. It's not something you can decide. It is not, and you know that, because like when you have a really bad headache or something's really going bad in your life, you pray, you want more than anything that it would stop, and it doesn't. So it's not up to your willpower. It's not something you can do. It's forced on you. Your projections are forced on you by your past karma. You have no choice. You don't have a choice in the present, right? But you have a choice in the future. Okay, you can, if you know the principles of projection and how projections are planted, you can choose your projections for the future. You can't do much about the ones that are happening now. Okay, if you could, then the Buddha would have taught that method, and no one would be suffering. What, the Buddhist is a sadist? You know, I mean, does he know how to make you stop suffering in 5 minutes and didn't teach us? You know, is he just holding out on us to see, like squishing a bug, you know, let's see how bad it hurts, you know? I mean, he's not crazy, and he's not insensitive. He has compassion. If there was a way to teach you emptiness, and then 5 minutes later you didn't have any suffering, he would have taught it. He didn't teach it. Okay? He taught ethics. He taught how to be good. He taught how to make good karma. But I always bring up, and I don't like to make a dirty example, but I bring up the example of rape. Okay, I'm not. It's a dirty example, but it makes the point. The person doing the rape is having pleasure, normally. The person getting raped is having a terrible suffering. If the person raping the other person is having pleasure, that's a result of a good karma. They are reaping the result of a good karma, strictly from the point of view of that pleasure. From the point of view that they wanted to do a rape, and from the point of view of the rape itself, they are going to have incredible suffering. It's going to produce incredible suffering. But you have to have the distinction between the result of the past deeds and the cause of the future suffering, happening in the same event. The same event being, I always say to people, we did this in Central Park with the $50 in the diamond deal, if you remember. My boss tells me, go out and lie. Go out and lie to this guy, and we'll make an extra $50 off this diamond, you know. And I go out, and I lie. And the guy sells the diamond for too little, and we make an extra $50. Is the $50 a result of the lie? Cannot be. Cannot be. It's an illusion. And that illusion causes all sentient beings to suffer constantly. That's the story of our life. You know, it's not connected. There's no connection. The $50 came from some kind of generosity that I did in the past. The lying is definitely going to cause me suffering in the future. But they can happen at the same time. They can happen in the same event. Let me go a little farther, then I'll answer some questions, okay? So, 3 guys are watching the boss. One guy is having a ripening of a good karma. He's enjoying the situation. By the way, he's collecting bad karma. In the future, he's going to have bosses screaming at him. But right now, he's having a ripening of a good karma because, by definition, he's enjoying it. If he's enjoying it, it has to be a ripening of a good karma. The second guy could care less. And me is sitting there having suffering, a lot of suffering. What is the practice of patience at that moment? How do I practice the perfection of patience and understand emptiness at the same moment? You tell me. Yeah. It's called, well, I like to call it the perpetuation. You know, am I going to perpetuate this thing or not? What's the normal reaction to someone screaming at you? Scream back. Why is he screaming at me? I screamed at somebody in the past. What's the best way to meet another screaming boss in the future? Scream back, you know. What's the natural reaction to a screaming boss? Scream back. What's the word for samsara in Tibetan? Korwa. It's self-perpetuating circle. It's exactly the point of samsara. That's exactly the point of the word for samsara. The point is that your natural reaction is exactly what brings him back in your future. You know? If you want to see this boss again like that, in fact, much more times, yell back, because it's definitely it's the perfect and exact and precise way to have this boss screaming at you again in the future. If you want him to come back, if you want to perpetuate it, then respond with the same kind of violence. He'll definitely come back, and you'll get to do it again and again and again and again. You know? If you want to break the cycle, which means breaking the first link of dependent origination in that wheel of life. It surrounds the wheel of life. That's the whole point. How do you break it at link number one? What is link number one? It's the blind guy. It's ignorance. It's not understanding the emptiness of this boss yelling at you. It's not understanding the emptiness of the boss yelling at you. You can break the wheel there. You can smash the wheel there. If you cut off number one, the other 11 wither away. What do you do? What do you do when he's screaming at you? Just shut up. You know, take the bad karma, let it ripen, and don't create new. And he'll go away. He must go away. He'll be forced out of your life. Whew, you know, yay, you know, he's gone, you know. And that's the only way to get rid of a screaming boss, by the way. It's the only way. It is the only way. It's just not to scream that. Okay? And then eventually it'll wear out, and there won't be any screaming bosses. And that's breaking the wheel of life. That is smashing link number one. That's how to practice the perfections with understanding emptiness. At the moment of anger, and that's when Buddhist practice kicks in, hopefully. That's when you do your Buddhist practice. It ain't in your meditation room in the morning, okay? It's at the moment of heat, when he starts opening his mouth, you know, and you say empty. You know? You just think of him as empty. It will not help at all. Your heart will still start pumping, and you'll still start thinking of something to say back to him. But if you remember empty, and at that moment you think empty, and you say, what the hell am I saying empty for? Oh, it means that he's screaming at me because some kind of past karmic seed is ripening in my mind. He does not exist out there as unpleasant on his own. If he did, what? 3 people in that 3 chairs would be having the same reaction. If his unpleasantness was a quality of him, if he were self-existently unpleasant, then all 3 people would have the same reaction, always. And everyone he ever met would have the same reaction. But they don't. So he's empty. And being unpleasant is not a quality of the boss. It is not a quality of his. It's a quality of, it's being projected by my mind onto sense data, onto certain data. And the same data could have been interpreted 2 other ways by 2 different minds. And they are. And they were. And that proves the emptiness of the boss. And it also proves how to practice the 6 perfections with understanding emptiness. It just makes sense. And that's how you do it. Now, doing it is a different thing, right? But I didn't want to get into that. No, did you have a question? In the highest school, dependent origination only means the process of projection. That is dependent origination. It's just the process of my karmas forcing me to project a certain look on him, forcing me to interpret that same information, which is just lines and mouth and noises, as someone who's mad at me and I feel bad. You know, that is dependent origination. In the highest interpretation, we presented 3 interpretations yesterday. They correspond to different of the 4 great schools of India. And in the highest interpretation, the true meaning of dependent origination is that process I just described. My karmic seeds are forcing my mind to interpret him in a certain way. Is it real? It's real in the sense it hurts. I mean, go stand in front of a car and see if it hurts, you know. It's a projection, but it breaks your bones, and that hurts. I mean, it's real in that sense. Is it artificial in the sense that you are projecting it? Yes. Does it really hurt? Oh, yeah. You know, so you can't, it doesn't help to sit, I'm not suggesting that knowing this, you should stand in front of a car, and as you get hit, say, this is my projection. I'll pretend it doesn't hurt much. I didn't say that. Your karma will force you to project broken leg and broken arm and intense pain. And that projection will go on for a few months afterwards until the karma wears out. So it is artificial in the sense that you are projecting it. It ain't artificial in the sense that it hurts or doesn't hurt. It will, and you cannot change it by willpower. It's up to your karmic seed. You're at the mercy of your karmic seed. He's saying the process of projection occurs at a mental level.
So if the visual object, isn't that mental consciousness preceded by a visual consciousness? Preceded in terms of a time?
But
1, 2, 3.
Visual consciousness is mental.
Visual consciousness is mental. Yeah. What does the eyeball do? Why do you need it?
They say that the function of the power of the eye, which is called Mickey Wangbo, is just to reflect the object that's out there.
Okay, visual consciousness is mental?
Yeah, consciousness is mental.
Visual. Does the visual consciousness precede the mental consciousness?
Yeah.
And the visual consciousness project?
It is infected by the projection. Yeah. The visual consciousness is a projection. How's that?
But that doesn't answer where the object came from. Because the object has to exist in the moment prior to its effect, which is the reflection in the visual consciousness.
Where did the data come from, you mean?
In essence, if you're saying that it has to be projected in order to exist, I'm saying it had to exist one moment prior to being perceived.
How do you know it existed a moment prior to being perceived?
By perceiving the effect.
No.
Using logic.
By using logic, yeah. This is a little obscure, anyway. But it's this. You know that the thing, you know that an object had to exist a minute before you saw it, because by logic, if you're aware of something, you know that the thing must have been there the moment before. So he's saying, wasn't the thing there a moment before without your projection? I say, how do you know that? He says, by logic. I say, the logic itself is a projection. Okay. The object of the logic, the object of the reasoning, is again a projection. Yeah.
If there's nothing there.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said there's data. I didn't say there's nothing there. There's data there.
There's nothing there ultimately, but there is something there conventionally. It has to be something there, or there's no difference between projection and imagination.
That's a big debate in Madhyamika, you know, and we can talk about that.
You can imagine a rabbit with whatever, you know, it looks like a hippopotamus. You can do anything in your imagination, but you cannot necessarily find that object outside of your imagination.
In that case, you're projecting an imagination.
What?
In that case, you're projecting an imagination.
Fine, you're projecting an imagination.
Onto colors and shapes which you imagine in your mind.
The colors and shapes are existing out. Whatever this is projecting onto has to exist there, or you couldn't be projecting anything onto it.
This is what the lower Madhyamika school says. Really, seriously, it's a big debate.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. They say there's no outer objects at all. I say there are outer objects and you're projecting them. No, it's a big debate. It's a huge debate. It is the difference between the two Madhyamika schools. One school is adamant that there must be some basis outside of projection. There must be. You know, I understand that I'm projecting onto a face, but isn't that face there without my projection? Doesn't that face exist without my projection? And then I say no, because an insect doesn't project that. The insect doesn't interpret those same data as a face at all. Again, it's a karmic projection. Doesn't project it as the boss's face. Doesn't interpret it as the boss's face.
No, it has a different intelligence. All the people that are in that room project it as the boss's face. They all see that. They may not see the boss's face. They may not have the same reaction. reaction to it, but they all agree the boss is there yelling.
Right, and the insect doesn't, because he's in a different realm. He doesn't see a boss's face. He sees a...
Something else there.
No, he does see some data. He sees huge thing 20 times as big as him, the face, and he hears loud noises, and he interprets this as a threat to his life. This is a life-threatening event. It's not an angry boss's face. It's a life-threatening. It's another one of those life-threatening events in the life of a roach in New York, and he better get under the table quick, you know, because he's in a different realm. He has a different set of karmic seeds that are forcing him to project a different kind of result.
But he projects it here, he doesn't project it over there.
Right.
But there's something here that creates.
There is
What's in there?
what?
You can't stand in that space if there's trees in that space.
Yeah. What's there?
Whatever, I don't know what's there. Whatever you just is there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Let's leave it. We'll get there. I understand the point. The point is that there is some data there that exists independently of our projections, outside of ourselves.
It doesn't exist independently. It exists dependent upon causes, parts, conditions, all this.
Okay.
It doesn't exist as dependent upon your mind unless your mind is involved with it.
Okay.
It doesn't exist
Okay.
dependent upon your mind.
I understand. So you're saying that there's an object out there which could exist independent of my projections, and it is dependent on its...
It doesn't exist inherently. It only
Yeah.
exists independent.
Right.
A tree
It...
can exist independent of the building, but not
Yeah.
independently.
Right. It exists outside of myself. It exists out there. When my mind's not engaged in it, it's still out there, and it's still dependent on its causes. Therefore, it's still interdependent, and it's not self-existent, but it does exist independent of my projections. That's your position. I understand it. We'll leave it for now. We'll get back to it. Okay. Leave it for now. I understand. I think I stated what you mean, and we'll talk about it. And I think it's the same. It's basically the same thing, basically the same argument, that there exist some objects outside of ourselves, independent of our projections, which are still fit into what we call dependent origination in the way you normally think of it.
Otherwise, we wouldn't project on.
Right. Right. And I say, and listen, when your mind goes down to the level of what you're projecting onto, it's called dakshi. You know, the basis of the imputation, if you want to get into that language. Again, you are projecting. And your new dakshi is the parts of the old dakshi. The new basis of your imputation is the parts of your old basis of your imputation. Now, where are those parts? What I'm saying is the moment you focus on the data itself, it's another projection onto smaller parts of data. But I don't want to. Let's leave it for right now. Okay, we'll get back to it. Let's leave it. We got to move a little bit. Okay. If what I said is true, and let's leave it at if, okay? Because if you're a good Buddhist, you shouldn't accept things until they make sense. Okay. If what I said is true, and you're now practicing the perfection of patience, perfection number 3, understanding the emptiness of the boss, what's the process? How does emptiness help you? What I'm not saying is that because he's empty, you don't have to get mad anymore. I'm not saying that. A. B, I'm not saying because he's empty, he's not irritating. I'm not saying that. In fact, I'm saying he's irritating because he's empty. Okay? He is irritating, and it is a painful event, and it is suffering, and it is unpleasant. Really. And what am I going to do? Come up here and say, my boss didn't get me mad last Tuesday? He did. It was unpleasant. He's blank. My karmic seeds are forcing me to project a thing called an unpleasant boss. Okay. What do I do? The last thing I want to do is create new seeds to see new blank objects as angry bosses. That's the last thing I want to do. That's absolutely the last thing I want to do. I am then practicing the perfection of patience, understanding emptiness. Period. The good deed that I have just created is how big? You can't measure it. Why? ultimate karmic result of behaving like that? I mean, eventually you'd get rid of all your old bad karmas because they would wear out and you're not perpetuating them. You're not refeeding them. You're not resupplying anymore. So eventually the old seeds would get worn out. If you knew the practice of the 4 powers, you could actually short-circuit all the old seeds quickly. Okay.
Well, it also works the other way around, too.
Right.
If you have the understanding, then you can manifest. If you understand emptiness, then you can manifest any way you want for the benefit of others.
We'll talk about it. We'll get there. Actually, today, this class will talk about it. Okay. Okay, so I've stopped responding in a bad way. I'm not collecting any new bad karmas. There are gonna be no new seeds in my mind to project on any blank screens, any more unpleasant events. Okay? And then eventually what? If I'm being compassionate or something, or the Dalai Lama says if you can't be compassionate, at least don't, what do you say? Don't hurt people. If you can't help them, at least don't hurt them, okay? But let's say you go beyond and you're actually going to turn the situation, the boss is screaming at you and you say, well, let's figure out why he's screaming and can I do something that will make him happy? And you're thinking like that, your mindset is like that. What eventually will happen? It's all good karmic seeds. It's all good karmic seeds. Imagine what it would be like if you only had good karmic seeds. And if the world is empty, if the whole world is blank, and if all you have in your mind is good karmic seeds, they're going to force you to see paradise. That's how you get to Buddhahood. That is the method. And that's how you use emptiness. The karma that would produce that kind of result is infinitely powerful. And that's why the Buddha says you couldn't measure it. You cannot measure it. Because think about the result. The result is paradise. Okay? The result is pure paradise. So what would happen later? I mean, don't forget, your own body is your own projection, and your own mind is your own projection. Okay? So let's say later, you've worn out all the bad karmas, and you look down on the data that you presently call your samsaric body, and you see what? Your karma forces you to see what? You see a Buddha body. You would be forced to see a Buddha body. You wouldn't have a choice. You wouldn't have a choice anymore. Your past karmas, on this same sense data, would be forced to see a Buddha's body. Okay? Your karmas would force you to see a Buddha's body. And by the way, you'd be aware of the whole process. You'd say, hey, cool, my karmas are forcing me to see a Buddha body. That's nice. I mean, you're very aware of the whole process. It's artificial and it's real. It's artificial, and that's exactly how you get there. And that's what was happening all the time in the past anyway. I'm being forced right now to see these freckles, My karmic seeds are forcing me to see these freckles as freckles. I mean, my karmic seeds are forcing me to do that. But at that point you're saying, oh, cool, karmic seeds forcing me to see a Buddha's body and forcing me to think like a Buddha. Ooh, nice. I mean, you're actually aware of it, and you're exactly aware of what's going on, and you're quite consciously and purposely and calculatedly keeping it going, by being good. Okay. 2 more questions and then we'll break. And then we'll talk about specifically about a Buddha's body and how that projection occurs. You have one.
But you said that when you practice this you break the over, right?
Yeah.
So
Excuse me? Oh, there's a difference between, normally what we call karma is called sakje. Sakje means impure. And normally when we talk about karma, we're talking about something which is dirty by nature. Sakje means dirty, or it's tied up with suffering. I'm talking about a concept. I'm calling it karma, but it's called sagmegile. It means totally pure actions. It's totally pure activities. It's not dirty karma. But the Buddha did, in 3 periods of 75, 76, and 77,000 great kalpas, which we studied the other day in New York, 10 to the 60th power, zillion years or whatever, spent that time doing good deeds, which created his Buddha body. And that's in the Vinaya, that's all over. That is the process by which his body was created, was by doing good deeds. We call the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. And we're going to talk about that. But basically, the sum total of jillions of years of being good in the first three perfections, say, giving, living an ethical way of life, and not getting angry when he could have got angry, those create the Buddha's physical body. How? How did you think it happened? Well, the karma went to Pluto and came back later? I mean, where did the karma stay and how does it work? How did it give that result? And then the last two perfections, which is meditation and wisdom, zillions of years of doing that creates the mental body of the Buddha. And we'll talk about those two bodies. We'll talk about that. I think you had one more question. Okay.
In the situation of the Boston, what about suppose you come to that last out, while you're doing that, you still have all these empty thoughts that are not let out. Doesn't that create an issue?
Somebody asked Dharmabhata the same question, and I read it the other day. They said, okay, suppose you can cork that anger in, and you don't blow up at your boss, okay? You don't say anything, but you do have the you're on the verge. You would like to say something. Liking to say something is a bad karma. It does create negative energy. At the beginning, you have to at least shut it off at the mouth and the body. And then later you have to learn to shut it off at the mental level. You have to learn to stop the karma at those levels. But the reaction time shortens. As you first learn about these ideas, you remember emptiness on the way to the bathroom 5 minutes later after you screamed at him, and then it gets shortened to 3 minutes, and while he's still in the room, you suddenly remember emptiness and all this stuff. And then the reaction time gets shorter and shorter. And that's called Tendon Sheshin Bayu Tembo Yi. Tsongkhapa said, try to shorten the reaction time until your Buddhist wisdom is so prevalent in your mind stream that you can immediately shut down the reaction before you start. So, what's the definition of nirvana? I think we had it yesterday. No, I didn't say that. Permanent cessation of your own bad thoughts. Will this method lead to that? And it could be fairly soon. That the cessation of your own anger could happen fairly relatively soon if you practice this method. Will Buddhahood happen that soon? I mean, will your body suddenly become golden with little wheels on the hands and the palms and you get this big bump on your head and stuff? I mean, will that happen immediately? No. So what I'm saying is that you can use this, gets you to nirvana quickly, which is the whole point. Soso tango, the second half of the definition of nirvana. Based on seeing emptiness, you stop your mental afflictions. That's what the story is about. You stop your mental afflictions. You actually won't have any more unhappiness. Is life still screwy? Yes. Is the company still crazy? Yes. Is the boss still screaming? Yes. But if you keep that behavior up over a long period of time, what happens? The old seeds purify, new seeds are planted, and you're forced to see the body of a Buddha. And you're forced to see the mind of a Buddha in your own head. Your mind is also a projection. Your mind is your own projection. You'll be forced to see your own mind as quite pleasant, whether you want to or not. In the same way that you're forced now to see angry bosses and things like that. By the way, just the answer to the homework question I didn't do yesterday, just off the subject, okay? You can divide I like to call it the wish for enlightenment. Bodhicitta you can divide into two kinds. You can divide into many, many kinds. But if you do it by nature of its, what we call Dejurikigone. Dejurikigone means in word only because it's not a real division. Why? Because one of the two divisions is not bodhicitta, okay? If you divide bodhicitta into two, there is a way you can do it, which is very important, where one of them is not actually bodhicitta, okay? What is that? There's a thing called ultimate bodhicitta and deceptive bodhicitta, all right? Ultimate bodhicitta and deceptive bodhicitta. And that was the answer to the homework question. What is ultimate bodhicitta? And it's called Dundam Samke. It's all over the scriptures, all over the place. Dundam Samke, ultimate bodhicitta, means, what do you get? The direct perception of emptiness. Okay? The direct perception of emptiness is the ultimate form of bodhicitta. I thought that was kind of cool, and that's why that question was there. Okay, what's the deceptive bodhicitta? That's just the normal one that you think about. It's what we defined on the board. It's wanting to achieve total enlightenment so that you can take other people there. And those are the two kinds of bodhicitta on the homework question. There's many other kinds of bodhicitta, and I'm not going to go into that. Yeah.
Well, is inspiring?
No, that's lower gonayena. If you divide bodhicitta according to its basic nature, there's two versions. You know, one is wanting to do it, and one is going about doing it. Basically, okay. But I'm not going to get into bodhicitta. That's another class. Okay. Oh, cool. Good question. Generally, Buddhism recognizes two realities: ultimate reality and deceptive reality. Deceptive reality is often mistranslated as relative truth or relative reality, and we're going to talk about that later. Okay. But what does deceptive mean to you? When I say the guy deceived me, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to? When I say deception, what do you think? Okay. Or when I say fake, what does it mean? When I say like fake chocolate chip cookies or something, you know, what is it? Huh? Oh, carob, yeah. No, what it means is, I mean, fake. Fake or deception involves two things if you think about it, and it's very important and it's relevant, okay? Deception or fake, and what we call fake reality, fake truth in Buddhism. The fake part means this: it looks like one thing, but it's really another thing. And those are the two parts of deception. All deception depends on those two things. Looks like A, but ain't A, it's really B. And that's the nature of deception. That's why we call it deceptive reality. Okay? To any state of mind except for the direct perception of emptiness, things are not the way they seem. And that's why we call them deceptive. Okay? And that's a long story. All right. Now, I want to make sure I cover all your homework and today at least. There are certain kind of karmic seeds that if you cleaned out your old dirty seeds and you only had nice, clean, wisdom collected seeds, you would have to look down, you would be forced to look down at your body later and see a Buddha's body. I mean, they say it's not, doesn't have guts, doesn't have blood, doesn't have a liver, rainbow, made of light. It is physical, it's not made of physical matter. It's tricky, okay? It has color and shape. It's totally blissful. We'll talk about it, okay? It's not dulda drupa. It's not made of physical atoms. It does have physical qualities. There'll come a day when you'll be forced to look down at the same body you have now, or some data like that, and see it in that way. What kind of karmic seeds could make that happen? We call it Sunam Kitsok, the collection of merit. Okay? The collection of merit. Mainly referring to the first 3 perfections, mainly, with a good spice of number 4. Okay, what are the first 3 perfections? Number 1 is giving. Number 2 is morality. I kind of don't like that word because it seems that I like ethical way of life, a good life. You know, if you ask me, do I have morality? I say, you know, if you say, are you leading an ethical way of life? I'm trying. You know, I kind of like that. Anyway, and number 3, patience, which means not getting mad when the time comes. That's all it means. It doesn't mean the ability to stand and wait for a bus. Okay. Okay. I mean that's a distinction. Number 3 is not blowing up when you should blow up, and everything's right to blow up, and you would normally blow up. Okay. Number 4. Effort. Tsungkang Gela To O, Shantideva's definition of effort. Just enjoying doing good things. Having a good time when you do good things. You know, getting off on doing good things. You know, enjoying, having, I don't know how you say, just getting off on doing good things. That's number 4. Just having a good time when you do good things. And that for you, that's the definition of a good time. You know, that's like joyous effort. Okay, those 4 together. If those seeds were planted in your mind stream, and if you cleaned out the other seeds, then one day you would be forced to look down and see the physical body of a Buddha. Okay, what's that body like? I'm going to go into it very briefly, okay? Because that's homework question number 2. By the way, question number 1 is, why did the Buddha go from talking about how to do good perfections with wisdom, and then he skips to the body of a Buddha? Because he goes up to Subhuti and says, how do you know a Buddha's a Buddha? And Subhuti says, well, they got these marks, you know, they got these wheels on their hands, and they got this kind of hair, and their skin is a golden color. There are 112 specific marks that a Buddha has. 30 major marks, 32 major marks, 80 minor marks. Okay. Anyway, Buddhas have 112 very unique signs on their body that other beings don't have. Like world emperors have them a little bit, but they're a little off center and they're not quite clear and all that. But talking perfect 112 major and minor marks, only Buddhas have them. So Buddha says to Subhuti, how do you know a Buddha's a Buddha? He says, well, when you look at him, he's got those 112 marks, and they're right in the right place, and they're absolutely clear and distinct, and that's how you know they're a Buddha. And then the Buddha says, but what did the Buddha say about those marks? And Subhuti says, oh, Buddha said those were impossible. Buddha says those don't exist. You know, and then this is the Diamond Sutra, right? This seems to be a pattern. You know, so the Buddha Subhuti's the fall guy. You know, Buddha says, what makes a Buddha? And Subhuti says, marks. You know, you see these marks. And then the Buddha says, no, you don't. There aren't any marks. You know, you know, and then they get into the major and minor marks. Why did they do that? Why did they go from the perfection? Why did they go from perfecting the perfections with wisdom to the body of a Buddha? One leads to the other. That's the whole point. Okay, it's the first 4 perfections primarily which create the physical body of a Buddha. It's the last 2 primarily which create the mental body of a Buddha. Okay, and body is maybe a difficult term. Okay, let's say part. Okay, the physical parts of a Buddha are created mainly by the first 4 perfections. The mental part of a Buddha is created primarily by the last 2 perfections in conjunction with number 4, half of number 4. Oh, you guys tell me. Number 5 is what? The ability to meditate perfectly. Okay, the perfection of meditation, concentration. Number 6. Wisdom, which is understanding absolutely what we're talking about today and yesterday. That is wisdom. That's the whole point. There ain't much more to it. I mean, we can talk some more, but that's the main thing. I'm going to talk about what's called the four bodies of a Buddha. I think it's maybe more convenient to think of them as the four parts of a Buddha. But they're called the four bodies of a Buddha. Are they projections? Yeah. Why? Because they exist. Okay? Because they exist. Some scriptures teach 3 bodies. Some scriptures teach 2 bodies. Some scriptures teach 4 bodies. We'll do the 4 because that way you get the others automatically. Okay? There are 2 physical bodies and then 2 bodies which are not physical. Okay, we're going to cover the 2 physical ones first. The first physical one is called tuku. Say tuku. Tuku. Tu means to emanate or to send out. Nirmana means to send out something, like sending out rays of light or something. And the point is this. Once you become enlightened, because of the incredible good deeds you've done, anytime, anyone on any planet, in any galaxy of the universe could benefit from a Buddha being there in any form, you show up there automatically. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think, oh, it's 2 o'clock, Bob Chilton's getting mad, I better send his girlfriend down. You know, you know, you don't have, it doesn't have to think like that. They say it's like a moon reflecting in the water of the earth. When there's a clear sky at night and the moon comes out, the moonlight, the image of the moon reflects in every body of water on the planet automatically. The moon doesn't have to think, oh, hey, I better get down to that puddle in the middle of Vajrapani stupa, or I better get down to the whole Pacific Ocean, or I better get down to the teardrop in a child's eye. You know, the moon doesn't have to think that. It just shows up there. It shows up anywhere where the conditions are right. Anytime there's a body of water pointed at the moon on a clear night, the moon is showing up in that water. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. So Nirmanakaya is like that. Anytime anyone's ready, anytime anyone could benefit, the Nirmanakaya is there at that moment. And they're very patient creatures. I always tell people they could wait on the West 4th Street subway platform for 25 years, knowing that you're showing up on October 3rd at 2 o'clock, and get on the subway next to you and bump you to see if you get mad. They're very patient creatures. There's no reason why a Buddha who is working on infinite planets and in infinite countries in infinite cities at the same time wouldn't do something like that. And Pabonka Rinpoche was very adamant about that. He said, you know, be careful in a class like this. You never know who you're sitting next to. You know, you have no way of knowing who you're sitting next to. You don't know. Don't think the Buddha is so wimpy that he can't appear in any way he wants to. You know, don't discount his abilities or her abilities. Okay, can be anybody, could be anything. There's 3 forms of tukus. Okay, three types. A Buddha can appear as an inanimate object. A Buddha could be this pole. I mean, it could project this pole. Could project the wind blowing through the trees, and you hear some Dharma teaching from it. Very possible. It's been done many times. You're out in the forest alone, the wind is blowing through the trees, and it has some message, it tells you something. It's the Buddha's activity. It's the Buddha, it's the activity of a Buddha. No problem. Okay. First kind of tuku. Secondly, they could emanate as some kind of lower animal or lower life form. Doesn't have to be emanating as Shakyamuni Buddha in India 500 BC. They could emanate, for example, as a deer. And if that deer teaches you something about Dharma, then it could be the Buddha. It's definitely the Buddha's activity. The deer itself could be the Buddha. Okay. That's the second kind of emanation form, emanation body. The third kind is what we call chokituku. Say choki, tuku. Chokituku. That means the ultimate or supreme emanation body. And that one always looks like the Buddha who came to India 500 BC. It always has those 112 marks. That Buddha always looks like that. Okay. That's the ultimate emanation body. That's the supreme emanation body. That's called Chokituku. Excuse me? They're probably choki-chukos that you can't recognize or something. All right. I would say, personally, I would think that, you know, but I believe that they could emanate as the first type, you know, like that.
So a person, if we say,
Oh, they're emanating as a human, which I put in the second type actually.
humans can be.
You know, they're not yeah. A human emanation without the marks would be in number 2. Okay. Yeah. Well, lower life form meaning non-enlightened, appearing to be non-enlightened, and the human is there also. Okay. Yeah. The word chuku means only this. I mean, technically a chuku, yeah, it depends on if you're his disciple or not. I mean, ideally, if they're really what a chuku is supposed to mean, they are a Buddha. And they are just emanating as in a series of human lives. But they are totally enlightened beings. In practical sense, is everybody who's ever called a tukul in Tibet, who's recognized as being the next life of a former life, which was maybe only on the path. I think in Tibet and in Tibetan Buddhism, yeah, there is that idea. But ultimately, the word tuku refers to an enlightened being emanating, and I think it's probably meant to be thought of that way originally. Nowadays, there's this other ideas maybe. Okay, so that's the emanation body. Next one is called, say lonku. Lonku. In Sanskrit, sambhogakaya. Long is a word that means like enjoyment. You can call it the enjoyment body. This is the body, the physical body of a Buddha in his or her own paradise. Okay, as they exist in their own paradise. What's the basic difference between these two bodies? Exactly. Okay? He said you can see one and you can't see the other. And the basic distinction, the reason there's two different bodies is that the first one can be seen by normal people who have extraordinary virtue. In other words, if you had the good karma to be in India 500 BC and look upon this being, you can see body number 1. And we can see the other kinds of bodies. You know, we can meet a lama who's pretending to be a normal human. We can meet lamas who look like regular people. And in that case, we are able to see the tuku. We are able to see body number 1. Maybe not the choki tuku, okay? If you're not le dakpa. Le dakpa means if you're not a person of extraordinary good karma, you don't live in a world where the Buddha himself walks. Can't see him, can't meet him. And we are in that category. I mean, we cannot meet the choki tuku. He's gone. Okay, he's not coming back for a long time. Okay. We can meet the Dalai Lama, who is a tuku, but not the choki tuku. Okay, so we have enough good karma to meet beings who are Buddhas and look like normal people, but we don't have the good karma to meet Buddhas who look like the ultimate emanation body of a Buddha. We'll get there. I think it's class number 8. I always say this in New York, so I get out of it easy. We'll talk about that. That's extremely important. That's really important. She said, well, what if you purify your karma to a certain extent? Well, could you then? That's a question. We'll talk about it. To see the second body, you have to be A bodhisattva, B, you must have seen emptiness directly. You have to be an Arya bodhisattva. You have to have real bodhicitta in your heart, and you have to have seen emptiness directly. To see the one that's living in their own paradise. Okay. Otherwise, so that's the basic reason why there's two bodies split out. You know, one are the kinds that we can meet, and the other are the kinds that we can't meet until we see emptiness directly and get bodhicitta. Okay. You want detail on this body, or you want to eat lunch? Okay, good. So it's your fault, not mine. I'll give you 5 qualities of the second body. Okay, they're called the 5 certainties. The 5 certainties. 5 qualities about body number 2 are totally fixed. They never change. Number 1 is its location or its residence, the place where this Buddha stays. The place where this body stays is always in a paradise called Ogmin. Okay? You'll never bump into this body anywhere else. If you want to see this body, you've got to go to Ogmin. It never leaves Ogmin. It's in Ogmin. Second quality, the people who hang out with this body are always the same. They are a minimum bodhisattva aryas, bodhisattvas who have seen emptiness. Okay? In other words, this being in its own residence can only bump into bodhisattva aryas, bodhisattvas who have seen emptiness directly. This being on its own turf never has to run into a yelling boss. Okay? It's very interesting, and maybe even not on its own turf, maybe anywhere. Okay? This being is never forced to encounter any other being who is less than a high bodhisattva. It's not in the 3 realms of samsara. It's not in the form realm, formless realm. In this realms, yeah. In all 3, can manifest in all 3 realms. Doesn't do much in the formless or form realms, okay, but does do some things there. Quality number 3. The body is always the same. It always has those 112 marks, totally perfect, perfectly clear and perfectly located on the body in the right places. It always has those marks, the 112 marks. Why are they called marks? 30 are called sense. They say because they mark the person as a holy being. The 30 major marks. 32 major marks. The 80 minor marks are called peche, which means symbol, because they symbolize that inside the person has these great spiritual qualities. In other words, these are like pimples on a teenager that symbolize the inner metabolism changing, you know. These are marks that are showing up on the outside that are just reflections of what's going on the inside. Okay? They always show up in the same way. If you have the same kinds of compassion, knowledge, and omniscience, you always get these things coming out on your skin. Okay? It's just the nature of things. You can't have those inner qualities without these outer marks showing up on your body. Okay? That's just the way it is. So they always have those marks. Okay? In that body, number 2. The 4th quality is that, you know, in the paradise in which they live, they are teaching. They are teaching those bodhisattvas, for example. Bodhisattvas can go and learn from these beings who have seen emptiness. And they are always teaching Mahayana. That's what they're teaching, Mahayana. They are teaching the scriptures that are based in bodhisattva ideal. So their dharma is fixed. So far we had the place is fixed, the people they hang out with is fixed, their body is always the same, and then what? What they teach is always the same. It's fixed. Okay. Number 5 is Dungepa. Dungepa means the duration of their existence there is fixed. Okay? The duration of their time there is fixed. And what the scripture says is they will not pretend to move into their final nirvana until samsara is emptied of suffering beings. Okay? Until samsara is emptied of suffering beings, they will not pretend to move on to their next stage. Why they say pretend? They're there already. But what are you going to do after Buddhahood? You know, We say, for example, tsubtumba means to pretend, like the Buddha pretended to die in this world. According to the Mahayana teachings, the Buddha didn't have to die. Or at the beginning of the DiamondCutterSutra, what does the Buddha do? What's the first thing he does in the sutra? He goes out and asks for food. I mean, does the Buddha need food? No. I mean, this is what we call tsubtumba. Tsubtumba means for our benefit, they pretend to have certain human qualities. Okay. Like the Dalai Lama jokes around my teacher jokes around like a normal person, pretends to watch baseball on TV. Stuff like that. To teach you, there's something going on. Something going on. It's never just that. Okay. Okay, body number 3. I'm going to skip number 3. We'll come back. By the way, the Sanskrit is we got to save number 3 because you can't understand number 3 until you do number 4. Okay? But this is the normal order. Say Yeshichuku. Yeshichuku. Yeshi means wisdom. Chu means dharma. Ku is kaya. This is the wisdom body of the Buddha. Okay? The wisdom body of the Buddha. It is the Buddha's omniscience. The fact that the Buddha, at any particular instant, can see every existing thing in the universe that ever was, is now, or ever will be. Ultimate reality or deceptive reality, all at once. No problem. The Buddha can perceive all of those things at one moment. Okay. That makes the Buddha omniscient. Okay. The Buddha is not omnipotent, by the way. Okay, I mean, just as a point, the Buddha cannot change your suffering with a wave of his hand, and he said that. Okay, he did not make the world; you made the world. He can't take away your suffering by doing anything special. If he could, he would have. What is he, a sadist? You know, if he could have removed your suffering with some kind of, you know, woo-woo, you know, would have done it. Cannot do it. Is not omnipotent. Doesn't have the power to do that. But is omniscient. Does know all things. Okay. That brings us to this body. Ngonyiku. That's the emptiness of the other 3 bodies. Okay. Lo means essence body. This is the essence body. It is the emptiness of the other 3 bodies. What's the emptiness of the first body, Nirmanakaya? What's the emptiness of the body that comes to planet Earth? What's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body? It is anything but not a projection. I'll say it again. It is anything but not a projection. That's its emptiness. That's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body. To state it positively, to state its dependent origination, the Dalai Lama is forced by his past karma to perceive himself as having a Nirmanakaya. Those arms and legs which you and I see in a certain way, and his enemies see in a different way, and that he sees in a totally different way, those parts, he is forced to project onto that Buddha's body. His experience of his own body is, oh shucks, I'm being forced to see this as a Buddha's body by my past karma. Okay, his enemies see this very evil man who's trying to split up things, you know, and his disciples see a guy who looks like a regular human being, and they say he's something special, and he certainly does act special. But right now, that's all we can see. Okay, that's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body. Okay, that's part of his essence body. Okay? The fact that he is anything but not a projection of his own, is part of his body number 3. Okay? That's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body, of his physical body. It's not a projection. It's not a projection. That's the emptiness of his body. And that is his body number 3, part of it. Okay? Excuse me? By the way, there's a big difference between the Dharmakaya and the Jnana Dharmakaya. The Jnana Dharmakaya is his wisdom, is his knowledge. The Dharmakaya involves body number 3 and 4 together. What they call Dharmakaya is body number 3 and 4 taken as one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then they call Rupakaya is body number 1 and 2 taken together. Okay. And that's why you come up with 2 sometimes. What's the emptiness of the Buddha's omniscience? And then we'll stop. Okay. What's the emptiness of the Buddha's omniscience? We only got half the essence body so far. We got the emptiness of his physical body. He has the karma to be forced to see this data as a deity's body. You know, he's being forced to see that. That's the dependent origination of his body. The emptiness of his body is his body ain't anything other than that. What about his mind? That's really cool. What about his mind? What's the emptiness of his mind? It's a projection. Onto what? Onto the parts of the mind. What parts? Well, let's take the mental functions which accompany all consciousness. He has feeling. He's able to discriminate between things. He's able to direct his mind to certain objects. He's able to focus on something. These are all mental functions. All of those mental functions and the main mind taken as a whole, the Dalai Lama is forced to see as a knowledge body, as a wisdom body. He's forced to see that as a wisdom body. Very interesting. You and I got the same parts of our mind. We have attention, we have concentration, we have discrimination, we have sensation. We all have those. Bugs have those. But he's being forced to see it as what? Omniscience. And that's the only way you get to omniscience. It's very interesting. If you want to get to omniscience, you better collect the karmic seeds that are going to force you to see your own parts of your own mind as omniscient. It's very interesting. You don't get there any other way. What did you think? You thought that some guy was going to do surgery? You know, was it something external? It's very interesting. What is happening is a shift in your own perceptions. The gray stuff is the same. The object, the basis of that imputation is the same. You are being forced to interpret it in a different way. You're the guy sitting next to me at work instead of me. It's very interesting. A shift is occurring in your projections, and you are passing from ignorance to all-knowingness. That's how you get to be a Buddha. It's cool. Okay. Yeah.
So, are you saying that my emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body is different than the emptiness of the Dalai Lama's body from his own side?
Absolutely. No. I'd say your projection onto the Dalai Lama's body is totally different from... Do you think he's getting old to himself? Is Avalokiteshvara getting bald? You know? To Avalokiteshvara. To Avalokiteshvara. You know, is it getting wrinkles? Come on.
But yesterday you said that emptiness was equal and the same for all objects.
Oh, the emptiness, that's why I said the projection is different. The emptiness is totally the same. You know, if you understand his emptiness and he understands his emptiness, it's totally the same. Now, can you really perceive his total emptiness the way he perceives it? Not yet. But if you ever did at any point, it would be absolutely the same as the way he perceives it. Because it's only the fact that he ain't anything other than a projection. Okay, it's double negative. It is a double, emptiness is a double negative. And that's why, by the way, that emptiness could never be anything positive. Emptiness is a lack of something. Emptiness is the absence of something. If you get somebody stand up and say, emptiness is a little yellow, and it is sort of glowing, and it comes in down from the sky, you know, and impossible. It's an absence of something. It's the mere absence of something. The fact that there's no two-headed elephant interrupting our talk today is is similar to emptiness in that sense. It's the fact that something that which was never there ain't there. The gotcha that was never there isn't there. That's emptiness. The gotcha that could never have existed anyway is not there. That's emptiness. The Dalai Lama's body and mind are anything but not something projected. If you want to say it positively, which is its dependent origination and not its emptiness, it is only his projection. And it could never be anything else. That's his emptiness. It's cool. He's being forced to see his own mind as omniscient. So what's body number 3? It's just the fact that the other 3 bodies aren't anything else. Okay? The other 3 bodies are not anything else except a projection onto certain data, okay, which is being forced upon the Buddha by 75,000, 76,000, and 77,000 countless eons of doing good stuff. Okay. All right. Where did you think that the good deeds stayed? Where did you think before? How were they going to make him into a Buddha? Did they come back from Pluto on this big orbit and hit him and suddenly he's a Buddha? How do you think you get to be a Buddha? Is it something outside? Where does karma stay in the meantime? And how does it ripen? It's in your mind.